Hey, Foot Clan, before we start today's show, I want to remind you to head over to UltimateDraftKit.com. That is where you get the official Fantasy Footballers Ultimate Draft Kit. Help you get ready for all the drafts with all kinds of great things. We're talking 100-plus video profiles, our expert rankings, player-by-player analysis, blurbs, stat projections. We're talking tier breakdowns. We're talking sleepers. We're talking breakouts. We're talking everything under the sun that is related to fantasy football in this season. And this is the cheapest you can possibly get the Ultimate Draft Kit. So head over there right now, UltimateDraftKit.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
It's Tuesday.
It's a day.
It is Pie Day.
Oh, it is.
It is.
No, Jason, no, not that kind of pie.
You don't have to tell me, bro. This is 314. This is my.
I just didn't want. It's not banana cream day.
I do love that kind of pie. You know, I think it's actually both. I think because it is Pie Day, it's also like go have Pie Day.
You head down to the Village Inn.
Yeah.
Get some pie.
Also, more importantly, shout out to my twins who were born on Pie Day, who turn 8 today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Are you going to celebrate it?
Yeah, yeah. No, we're letting them out of the cage today. So it's a big deal for them.
Cage day.
It's Cage Day.
Yeah, we're going to go to the big new aquarium.
Yeah.
See fish.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know what Arizona was missing?
Was a desert aquarium.
A giant place for fish and dolphins and
Do the tanks have just like cactus and like tumbleweeds in them?
I'll find out today.
That would be, they should thematically design that aquarium. Welcome in, everybody. It is Tuesday, March 14th. This is the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Glad you're joining us today, whatever you're doing. We're glad you've decided to tune in. We have a good show today. We're going to get into more of the free agent madness.
It was madness over the weekend.
So much has happened for so many players that aren't running backs, because running backs,
everyone's holding off till the draft.
they have it rough.
There's a
Rough.
song, right? It's like, parents, don't let your kids grow up to be cowboys. We need a new version for 2017.
For GMs, don't let your teams sign running backs.
Parents, don't let your kids grow up to be running backs.
Impoverished running backs.
Because you're not going to make the money that other players get. You're going to take a beating worse than any other position.
It's
don't do it.
Nobody wants them. Latavius Murray, Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson.
Eddie Lacy.
Sitting out there on the market. But we'll get into all the other signings. A lot of good discussions. We also have frequently asked fantasy questions later this week, and we'll get into the mailbag, and we'll just be talking fantasy football. That's what we do.
That's what we want to do. That's what the people want. They want to know the takes on all of these.
Well, I want to know some opinions on this show for a quick question here. If you want to follow us on Twitter, where we posted a poll about this question, you can do so at the FF Ballers. We're also on YouTube. We're on the Fantasy Sports Network, and the website is thefantasyfootballers.com. We have tons of articles hitting the website all the time, including Matt Harmon's reception perception. Mike is wiggling his finger at me.
Look, Foot Clan, if you're not following Andy Holloway on Twitter, I mean, I don't know where he's found these news sources lately, but he's getting just absolute incredible things that I'm not seeing these anywhere else. No,
at Andy Holloway. It's I'm Schefter levels.
You're getting the scoops.
All right, quick question of the day. A trade went down in the most peculiar fashion yesterday between Jason and myself in a dynasty league. However, this trade begs a bit of a debate, I think. I traded Tyreek the Freak, who I have been very publicly supportive of.
Only 23 years old.
And you shipped him out of town.
I did.
To a guy who's been very not supportive of Tyreek Hill.
I shipped Tyreek Hill.
This starts well.
And then, now this trade, explain what happened.
Okay, yeah, I guess, Mike, you don't even know what went down.
No, I was not around.
So the trade, I was looking to secure a slightly better running back. My running back 2 is a little weak, and the rest of my team is championship caliber. So I just wanted someone to plug in. And Terrelle Pryor was on my bench. And I really like Terrelle Pryor. We'll talk about him today coming up. And so I had looked at trade opportunities with Andy. And I kind of had on one of my tabs that were open Terrelle Pryor, and I threw in Jalen Richard, just a throwaway piece for my team.
Possibly.
No, sure. And then from him, Tyreek Hill and Theo Riddick. So I can get, a younger wide receiver, and then I can get Theo Riddick as a startable option on my bench to get that running back 2 spot. I did not offer the trade because I was not sure that I wanted to actually do that. I'm not sure that I like that trade for me. And Andy turns to me a couple minutes later and says, how can I get Terrelle Pryor from you? And I go, oh, that's interesting because I had a trade up. I go to my computer. I click the send trade button, basically so he could see the trade. I was like, I literally had one up that I was looking at. He takes a look at it, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know that I actually want to offer that. I go to the page to look at canceling the trade.
What could you?
I go to look at, like, maybe I should cancel this trade offer before he accepts. And I hear Brooks from the other office go, a trade has been accepted in your league. And I was like, what?
So, I did pull the trigger very quickly.
So hold on. So in your infinite wisdom, you thought I could tell him with my mouth using the English language, this is what I was thinking about offering. Instead, you thought you would send a binding contract.
There was a novelty.
Over the internet.
There was a novelty to it that was like, how funny that I had something up. I want you to see it. I want to prove to you that I was looking at a deal. And we made it. So that's the
deal's
deal.
done. Terrelle Pryor, Jalen Richard, or do you like the Tyreek Hill, Theo Riddick side? We put the poll up on Twitter. It was currently 56-44 in favor of Tyreek Hill and Theo Riddick. However, I like the replies that said this is team specific.
Oh, certainly is. I mean, this is the classic running back upgrade for a wide receiver upgrade type of situation.
So you believe in Pryor over Hill?
Yes, I do. But it's very interesting because, like I had alluded to earlier, I think that it's a possibility that Jalen Richard is not a throwaway piece. I mean,
if they don't draft another running back or sign another running back,
and he was great.
Do you know Derek Carr once compared him this past year to Barry Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, it's just
he says he has his sights set on being legendary.
He was tremendous. I mean, the guy's shifty. The guy earned playing time over an actual draft pick.
Right, that is true. Do you know how many times he got 10 carries last year?
I looked this up. 0, yeah.
But
5.9 a carry last year.
How many times did Theo Riddick get 10 carries?
Well,
solid.
Sure. Different type of running back.
So they're the exact same running back.
No, not at all. When you come to pass catching ability, that's Theo Riddick's game.
Yeah, that's Jalen Richard's game too.
He didn't catch a lot of passes. It's an interesting trade. I took it. Someone in our league said, hey, I'm kind of confused. You love Tyreek Hill. Why'd you do that trade? And it was about team makeup to me. My team has Jarvis Landry and Jamison Crowder. Terrelle Pryor represents red zone threat to me. He represents that big-bodied receiver that can do some things that, Jarvis Landry historically can't do. And so for me, I took it as an opportunity to get one of the bigger athletes in the league. But I definitely understand the perspective. I feel like I paid a lot.
I mean, Richard was tied for low carries, but with those low carries was tied for second in yards per carry, 5.9.
Also, just to answer your question, 6 times is the answer for Theo Riddick, who did not play a full season.
Neither did Amir Abdullah.
Yeah, say how many of those games were Amir Abdullah playing?
All right, let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
Numbers are so fun.
Yeah, they are.
You can just make them
say what you want.
This is what I want the numbers to say today.
Yeah, that's how I get trades done. All right, Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell finally had surgery today to fix a core muscle injury. This was yesterday, so not today. Normal timeline for recovery on this is about 6 weeks. He's tweeted that he's feeling good. Thanked everybody for their support. Anything of note to worry about here with Lev?
Nope. No, I mean, in 6 weeks, he'll be perfectly fine for OTAs, training camps. The bigger question for Lev Bell is this period while he's franchise tagged. Do the Steelers give him an actual long-term deal?
When my wife and I went and celebrated our anniversary last summer at Universal Studios, we got on one of those backlot tours. It's starting to feel like Seattle is giving those tours to all of the aged running backs, with Adrian Peterson leaving the Seahawks, leaving Seattle without a contract. Jamal Charles is visiting tomorrow, Wednesday. Latavius Murray was going to visit Seattle. And so it seems that we can't say who's going, but it sure seems like Seattle would like another running back.
But someone is going. Someone is – I mean, I doubt that they bring all of these guys in and then say, nope, Thomas Rawls is our guy. It just doesn't seem that way. In fact, this news is part of the reason I made the trade offer, because Thomas Rawls was my RB2, and I'm worried he's – he was a guy that was not drafted to be the heir apparent. He had a very good back half of the rookie year, and then they gave him the next year as a shot, and he couldn't stay healthy. And now Seattle's saying, we got to fix this. So it's worrisome to me at the very least.
Yeah, and I agree. I have him as a potential keeper in another league. I'm very concerned. I believe that if you're a fantasy owner right now, my best advice is to cash in on any name value that Thomas Rawls currently has in your league, because he does have some, because he was an attractive piece at the beginning of last year, and he had a pretty good playoff game. I think he had over 140 yards, something like that.
Do you think that Pete Carroll is taking bids to play for the Seahawks?
Yeah, I mean, I just think they need – look, Procise, Rawls both hurt last year.
Yeah,
they need depth. No production there. Lynch was – a stalwart. He played through injury constantly, but always played. So, yeah, we're going to do a show probably next week that'll be called Free Agent Winners and Losers, Upgrades, Downgrades. We'll get into, we'll let some of these running backs sort themselves out, and we'll talk about the impact. I mean, Thomas Rawls is a potential loser of the free agent period.
I think he's already there.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. So, all right. Latavius Murray visited with the Jaguars on Monday. So, I mean, they are in this similar situation. Chris Ivory wasn't healthy. T.J. Yeldon wasn't perfectly healthy. Neither was productive. And here we are looking at another three-horse backfield potentially, where I don't think Yeldon's going to get thrown by the wayside. I think he'll be used just enough to hurt somebody else's value.
Yeah, this is another one of those teams that I think they're not spoken of when you talk about, well, what teams are drafting these great rookie running backs. I don't hear the Jaguars thrown out a lot, but I believe that they are in the running to upgrade that position.
Yeah,
the fact that they're bringing in Latavius Murray shows that it is at least on the radar.
I mean, you need depth. I mean, to me, I still have that slight belief in Chris Ivory. If the guy could just stay healthy, he'll be okay. But I don't know if he can stay healthy.
Never has.
Yeah.
Here's some news that might excite Mr. Mike, the fantasy hitman, right? ESPN's Field Yates reports that free agent running back Rex Burkhead is visiting with the Patriots. He visited with them yesterday, on Monday. Rex Burkhead is a name that has been thrown out as kind of a sneaky running back signing, potentially. I started to think about him and say, well, where can he really land that would make a difference? That's one place he could land and make a difference. We saw Dion Lewis did not come through at the end of the year. James White has obviously been playing a role, but LeGarrette Blount's potentially out of town. So Rex Burkhead, is he a sneaky keeper dynasty pickup right now?
Well, I assume he's owned in your dynasty leagues.
He should be. If he's not, grab him.
If he's not, I would pick him up. Hopefully you did when I've been talking about Rex Burkhead. But Dion Lewis is actually a very team-friendly contract. They could cut him and only absorb a $200,000 dead cap hit if they wanted to move on from Lewis and his injuries. Not saying that's necessarily going to happen, but there are ways and situations that Rex Burkhead could go there and not just be an ancillary piece. He could be part of the offense, but it's the Patriots, so it's also possible they sign him and then all of a sudden he's just like a special teams guy.
All right, Doug Free has retired from the NFL.
He's free.
A lot of the Dallas fans, I tweeted out that I think it's a bigger deal than at least the Dallas fans think it is. They're going, oh, this is good. He was always good for, a holding call on every important drive, or, they've got depth. But the reality is you cannot lose 2 important, really good offensive linemen and have it make no difference whatsoever. Because even if your starters are okay, depth matters in the NFL. You lose the depth.
So
they needed that depth last year when La'el Collins went down.
Nobody is a bigger Cowboys fan than our producer Brooks.
Yeah.
And so, Brooks, let's put it to you this way. If the Cowboys offseason was a plate of food, how's your stomach feeling right about now?
I'm a little queasy right now.
Oh. He needs the Pepto.
I've talked to a few Dallas fans, and they're feeling that way.
Well, part of the problem for Dallas's offseason is the other teams in the division. I mean, the New York Giants, to me right now, are winning the free agency this year, just like they did last year. They've added Brandon Marshall. They added to their offensive line, which was extremely important. They're looking good. And then you've got Alshon Jeffrey going to the Eagles. Thankfully, you have a top-down mess in Washington for Cowboys fans.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's an illusion.
Yeah, maybe it's fine. I mean, I still like Gruden. They've got, Kirk Cousins. They could be an okay team, but things seem
you have
disorganized.
I won't get into it, but you have Ezekiel Elliott popping up on TMZ again. So that's always a fun activity for him. So let's go ahead. Let's move into all of this free agent craziness.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
We were waiting for the shoe to drop on a number of players, and they have now signed, and some big trades, Brandin Cooks trade. But let's talk about Alshon Jeffrey first. Alshon Jeffrey signed a 1-year deal. Heads to the Eagles.
It's very interesting.
You actually saw Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith land in Philadelphia. Now, what are the implications here? I mean, if you were an Alshon Jeffrey owner, are you excited? Are you happy? It's a 1-year deal. This is a prove-it deal again for Alshon, maybe because the market really wasn't there.
It wasn't, because he is now – this will be his third, contract year in a row, essentially, because his first contract year resulted in just a franchise tag. Then so he's playing for, his contract last year, and now he gets a 1-year prove-it deal. I'm a little worried as far as Alshon's value. Now, the things that make me feel a little better about it, Carson Wentz last year was 5th in attempts as a rookie, throwing the ball over 600 times, 7th in completions, and he did not have a good wide receiver core. So it is possible that they develop a really good connection there. But I would prefer, if I was an Alshon Jeffrey owner, to have him go to a team with an established quarterback versus a second-year, hopefully up-and-coming quarterback.
Yeah, it'd be nice if he had an established quarterback. It's strange to me that, like you guys were saying, maybe the market dictated this, but Alshon Jeffrey, who has not stayed healthy the last couple years, has bet on himself with a 1-year deal, thinking he can go back into the free agent market next year and really cash in. Certainly, it could work out.
He probably can. I mean, the way wide receivers get paid in the NFL, they're the ones that generally look at not Terrelle Pryor, but Pierre Garçon.
Right.
I mean, went out and got paid. It's an interesting gamble on his part, but he really is the best weapon on that team by a long shot.
For the Eagles, I love it.
Yes.
Pairing your franchise quarterback with a possible franchise wide receiver, get that out of the way, let Jordan Matthews kind of return to the slot, and which should be a big upgrade for Jordan Matthews and his production. And like Jason said, the passing attempts are absolutely there to maintain value for Alshon, assuming that Doug Peterson continues to call the game that way.
All right, Terrelle Pryor has signed a 1-year deal. Now, I've seen reports that it's $6 million, but then Adam Schefter tweeted that it was an $8 million deal.
It's $6 with a $2 million incentive.
So it's both.
Yeah.
I think if that's the case, then I believe it's an $8 million deal.
Okay.
Because despite the fact that I just traded Terrelle Pryor, and I have major
Terrelle
regrets.
Pryor Sr., by the way.
Yes, I apologize.
Senior. He's the new senior.
The new senior. Look, he's coming into a great situation. We just talked about Alshon. He takes a 1-year prove-it deal, but he goes with an unproven commodity in Carson Wentz, who last year threw a bunch to other receivers that are still there. He still has Zach Ertz. He still has other terrible receivers. Plus, they brought in Torrey Smith.
They have them.
Right.
They're still there.
They're still
what
bad.
Were they? Three of the bottom 5?
Now that Torrey Smith is there, yeah, three of the bottom 5.
The Scott Barrett's tweet?
Yeah. But with Terrelle Pryor, he's coming to Kirk Cousins, who has proven himself, in my opinion at the very least, I think in all 3 of our opinions, that he is a quality quarterback in the NFL. And certainly for fantasy, he could get it done. And unlike the situation with the Philadelphia Eagles, you have Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon, who were the only 2 wide receivers to have more than 100 targets each on the Redskins. They're gone.
That's the first time ever, by the way, that 2,000-yard receivers and 2 guys with 100-plus targets have left one team in the offseason. I actually think it's over hyped, the loss of those 2 guys. When you have Pryor, you have Jamison Crowder in a 3rd year, you have Jordan Reed. I actually think that the loss of those 2 guys is overhyped.
From a team perspective, I agree. From a Terrelle Pryor perspective, I disagree.
I agree. Yes, right. Well, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. I mean, you lose that many targets, they have to go somewhere.
Right, and
so I'm with you.
Let them go to the 6'4" guy who just had 1,000 yards with the Cleveland Browns.
6 different quarterbacks
of quarterbacks.
Not counting himself.
and this is why I regret the trade already. I believe Terrelle Pryor will finish next year as a wide receiver 1. He'll be a top 12 wide receiver. I mean, he was in the 20s last year with a garbage offense. He's only going to get better.
He was the focal point.
That's the argument. We brought this up last night. Is
Washington's target share, no one ever gets force-fed the majority of the targets.
I agree with that, but you still have a lot of fantasy production there from the Redskins, and I would rather be – I mean, you've seen it before. We've talked about it recently. The Devontae Adams and the Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtrees, and there's plenty of teams where when you've got a good quarterback and a good offense, you're going to produce more for fantasy than being the focal point of a terrible team.
Right.
Cleveland averaged 204 passing yards per game last year. Washington averaged 297, 3rd in the league. Cleveland was 28th in the league. That's basically 100 yards of passing for Washington that Cleveland didn't have. You lose all the targets, and then you add in that type of production. There is at least potential for Pryor. I think he's one of those guys that the price for Pryor is going to be lower than the potential. It doesn't mean the upside's guaranteed, but he's one of the guys that you could buy, like I did, if you're looking for a gem.
Sure. And I tell you what, Terrelle Pryor this next season on FanDuel is going to win someone $1 million.
Yeah, Scott Barrett, our good friend Scott Barrett, he tweeted this out. So Terrelle Pryor, when he went to his pro day, wasn't a wide receiver, right? He wasn't tested as a wide receiver. He wasn't
in the
there.
league as a quarterback.
Had he been in the wide receivers at his combine, his speed score from his pro day in 2011 would have ranked him 2nd best since all wide receivers since 2006. That would have put him just after Calvin Johnson, just ahead of Julio Jones. And if you look at the whole list of everyone that's in that top, they are really, really good. I mean, it's like a who's who list of productive fantasy receivers.
I don't know if people agree with me on this, but he reminds me a lot of Brandon Marshall with his catch radius. The quarterbacks last year in Cleveland didn't put the ball right where it needed to be all the time, but Pryor made something out of nothing a lot of the time. So I'm very excited to see what happens in Washington. I certainly hope, as a Terrelle Pryor owner and a Jamison Crowder owner, that Kirk Cousins is a Washington Redskin for next year. He has come out and said today, this morning, that he did not demand a trade. That the only thing that happened was he asked Dan Snyder whether the Redskins were shopping him. He has since signed that tender, so it's very likely he remains in Washington for at least one more year. We will see what happens with that, but if you're an owner of Terrelle Pryor, that trade I just did, I don't want to see Kirk Cousins going anywhere, or I might be weeping in the corner.
Yeah, for this season? Yeah.
All right, before we move on and talk about this big New England Patriots trade, we want to thank today's sponsor, Great friends of the show. Absolutely amazing website. PristineAuction.com. Pristine Auction is the home on the web, one of the fastest growing sports memorabilia auction houses in the world. You go to the homepage, and they have hundreds of daily auctions, okay? This is not – they have week-long auctions. They have different things you can bid on, but they have hundreds of daily auctions. You can get a Dak Prescott jersey right now on the homepage, Ezekiel Elliott.
You can get Dalvin Cook.
You can get Dalvin Cook. You can get I saw a Jerry Rice jersey on the homepage today. These are all authentic autographed memorabilia. We have visited these guys many times, seen the warehouse, walked through the halls and seen all this autographed memorabilia on the wall. Absolutely awesome, and you can get a bargain. We actually give away an item from Pristine Auction every single month in our Foot Clan giveaways over at jointhefoot.com, and people love them. I mean, they're just
because
awesome
they're
gear.
the most. They're absolutely incredible. To have those type of pieces it's just different. You don't have things like this. You can't go to Walmart and get a cool item like this.
No, and if you go on eBay or someplace like that, you're paying 10 times the amount of money.
least.
So
and it's not even guaranteed that it's
authentic.
a real signature.
Yeah, so Brooks, I want you to take a picture of our lobby and the 5 jerseys we have in there. We got them all from Pristine Auction just to show people what you can get. Check it out, pristineauction.com. That's Pristine auction.com, the absolute best sports memorabilia site on the web. New England, the Patriots are all in. They paid big money for Gilmore. Now they traded the Saints for Brandin Cooks.
I was shocked.
Look, the rumors about a Brandin Cooks trade have been there. And so this let us talk a lot about the fantasy implications. I have been very open in saying I didn't believe that Brandin Cooks can land anywhere in the NFL. That would be a better situation than New Orleans. New Orleans, he was indoors for half his games. Drew Brees is Drew Brees. And he lands in New England. Now, if you had told me, hey, go ahead and rank the spots he could land in, I probably would have put New England and Green Bay right up at the top because of the quarterback situation. That being said, they're outdoors. You have Malcolm Mitchell, Rob Gronkowski, Chris Hogan, Julian Edelman, and whoever comes out of that backfield, whether it's a Burkhead and a Lewis and a White. Look, he spreads the ball around. In my opinion, Brandin Cooks is going to have some big games. And he's going to have some disappointing games.
Yeah, my game plan right now. So the kind of after the trade happened, I'm really thinking about why would they make this move, and because Brandin Cooks he plays a good amount from the slot, right? But they already have a slot receiver in Julian Edelman. Except Julian Edelman is in the last year of his contract. He's 30 years old. The Patriots are not the sentimental type. They will not keep you around just because of what you have done for the team. If it's time to move on, it's time to move on. I don't know if that's what's happening with Julian Edelman, but to me there's a possibility they brought Brandin Cooks in to be Julian Edelman's replacement, which in the long run would be incredible for fantasy purposes. My plan right now is I don't have Brandin Cooks anywhere because I've never been a huge believer of what he can do. It's too hot and cold for me. But if he becomes that focal slot receiver for the Patriots, who it's not just Edelman. You have Wes Welker, Amendola. You've seen tons of guys be awesome for the Patriots in that spot. But I think it's going to take Brandin Cooks a while to catch traction. I agree with Andy. He'll have some big games here and there, but I think that the people who are going to pay up for Brandin Cooks in redraft, dynasty people are going to start getting antsy after a few games. That's when I'm going to pounce for the future of Brandin Cooks, because I think this is a long-term play.
I love that take. I think that's well thought out.
Yeah, I like it as well. I definitely think he's the heir apparent to Julian Edelman. The question is, what's he going to be able to do this year? And so for redraft leagues coming into this season, I think people will be too hyped.
He'll be overdrafted
on Brandin Cooks because they think, oh, he's going to Tom Brady, which is like, so what? He had Drew Brees. I am down on Brandin Cooks. I would probably move him down a few spots from where I had him. However, I think this is great news for Tom Brady. I mean,
it's more of an upgrade for Brady than it is anything else in this deal.
I mean, you're not just adding, another piece to many pieces. You're adding a really special piece that can take any play and break it 80 yards for a touchdown.
Yep.
It's hard to know when to start the Brandin Cooks, but he makes it much easier to know when to start Tom Brady, which is every single week.
No doubt about it.
If he doesn't just immediately start playing slot, which he won't, who do you think he hurts more, Chris Hogan or Malcolm Mitchell?
Hogan.
I think he hurts Hogan more. I think Hogan he'll have his spots. We've seen that with some wide receivers in New England over the years. Danny Amendola, here and there, is featured in a game plan,
Right.
and then he's not. I think that's what happens with Hogan.
Did they get tired of those double catch? Chris Hogan's patented catch the ball twice every single time it's thrown at him.
All right, let's talk about Kenneth Dixon, guys.
Oh no!
I was literally just about to make that sound with my mouth.
Suspended the first 4 games of 2017 for violating the NFL policy on PEDs. You mix that with Danny Woodhead, and Danny Woodhead's contract is not a little contract. I mean, he's a little guy with a big contract.
I like Danny Woodhead this year.
And he says he's 100% back from injury. Certainly opportunities in that backfield with the passing volume that we've seen out of Baltimore. I don't know what else they're doing at the running back core, but Terrence West, a suspended Kenneth Dixon, isn't going to get it done between the tackles. So it's going to be Danny Woodhead. It's probably going to be another piece, whether through the draft, through free agency. Who knows? Maybe a LeGarrette Blount type of player lands there and mixes all together with this
Gross.
disgusting swatch.
So they already had Terrence West. They've tendered him. He should be back.
He'll be competing.
And last year it was Terrence West and Kenneth Dixon. I mean, no one really took over to be, that 65% snap type of a guy. So now with Kenneth Dixon in the oh, what?
Wait, really?
Yeah, we got breaking news
Hold
here.
on. Hold on.
You gotta
I'm a little slow today. So.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
I hope that you traded Thomas Rawls the second we told you to, because Eddie Lacy has agreed
Really?
to terms with
has
the
signed?
Seattle Seahawks, according
my
to
goodness.
Ian Rappaport.
Woo-hoo!
Wow, that is
All right, well,
breaking news.
Then
indeed.
we'll go back to that. But so Terrence West was already splitting time with Kenneth Dixon. Now you're in the doghouse of the 4-game suspension. Jason is very upset with himself.
Sucks.
Yeah,
You're left
Go
holding the
on.
bag. But Danny Woodhead, I mean, he's a passing down specialist. He's actually excellent on the goal line. Baltimore's running backs accounted for over 20% of the targets that had them tied for 8th. So I mean, they love
Even more the year before.
right. So they like to throw it to the running back position. I agree. I like Danny Woodhead. I think that he will once again be underdrafted and will give you a very, very solid
I
return.
mean, no. Look, let's just face facts. Nobody wants to draft Danny Woodhead and start.
I do every
Yeah, I was
year.
They
say.
don't want to start him.
Most people don't, but I
yes.
do.
Look, you just okay. So most people do. Maybe we've learned our lesson over the years, but it's just
it's
one
called
of
running back one multiple years.
just
Foot
really
Clan-
hard.
The Foot Clan will draft Danny Woodhead late because it won't cost you much, and you will have a guy that you can play on many weeks that you'll have the opportunity to start, and you'll be happy to have that on your bench.
How are you feeling on the Kenneth Dixon temperature for Dynasty?
Not good. No, I'm
Not
not feeling
good?
good about it.
I want to see what happens in the draft this year and see if they do add a running back or not. But,
Fair.
But if they don't, I'm still,
You're still
okay,
okay?
with Kenneth Dixon. I mean, he
Here's
was
the
a
one
good
thing
back. He showed enough when he got the ball that he can be productive. He's going to miss the first 4 games. People are going to be, murderously off of him. He's dead to them.
Murderously.
Well, that's what I mean. Like
dangerous.
Yeah, super hardcore. But in the long term, I think he
Does
he
he have
is
a
a good running back.
Potential
that-
upcrease.
Yeah, yes, he could. Yes, he could. He could have a significant upcrease.
Does
in the
anyone-
future.
Here, hold on. Here's what I will say. Jim Harbaugh came out and made the positive comments about Kenneth Dixon. He already knew all about the suspension. They've known this suspension for a while.
That's what I was going to ask.
So the comments being positive at least are a check in the right direction. Now you say things to motivate a player. If they find somebody else that can get it done, he's not going to be loyal to Kenneth Dixon. But he did come out and say that as opposed to, hey, we need to, we're moving on from Kenneth Dixon.
Sure.
I mean, performance enhancing drugs.
I mean, I'm sure it was he had that brutal injury right in the preseason. I think he might have been doing some things just to heal up,
talk to Antonio Gates.
getting that Wolverine blood.
All right, circling back to this Eddie Lacy news, let's give some live commentary and opinion here. We didn't I certainly didn't think Lacy was the one that was going to land in Seattle. I thought it would be Jamal Charles, so I'm gonna miss on that.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the first thing for Alshon signing. That put me at 2 of the free agents signings of the year.
Yeah, let's not talk about it. I need Romo to go to Houston bad, or I'm gonna just be off this year. But Eddie Lacy, I mean, initial gut reaction, Pro-Size Rawls, Lacy, Collins.
Without really looking into the statistics and looking at the scheme and all of that, because I was not expecting Eddie Lacy to go there, I feel like what they are trying to do is find a Marshawn Lynch replacement. And you look at the guys that are available, and you say, okay, this guy is young enough, I think, in Eddie Lacy compared to the Adrian Petersons and the Jamal Charles, where he can be their back for the next few years. He runs hard and aggressive and hits people the same way that Marshawn Lynch did. The problem that I have is, yes, exactly, I don't know that he is good enough, a la Marshawn Lynch, with a bad offensive line to really be as productive.
Do we have contract information on
Not
Eddie
yet.
Lacy yet? Because I'm intrigued.
Not yet. To me, this is this is bad news for Thomas Rawls. I think Eddie Lacy can be okay. But it's CJ Pro-Size time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it looks like it's 1 year, $5.5 million.
That's not bad.
That's a very
That's
hefty
not good
contract
for you,
a running
Eddie.
back with $3 million fully guaranteed. So they're committing, at least for this season, to Eddie Lacy on a 1 year.
you start to wonder with that deal and with what Pro-Size showed last year. All of a sudden, Rawls goes from, is he a keeper? Is he a starter? To
Is he
just a backup? I mean, look, Lacy's going to get the rock. Pro-Size is going to be better on third down by far than Thomas Rawls. I all of a sudden, Rawls is third in that depth chart to me because the first and second down role was what he did. Pro-Size isn't going to get taken off the field in place of Rawls on third down.
No, Rawls. I agree with you. I think Rawls is irrelevant now for fantasy.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why I'm like,
things
this
change
this
so
sucks.
quickly. This is why we're going to do winners and losers next week because you're going to see 3 or 4 more running backs
I can tell
sign.
you who's a loser.
Yeah.
Mike, you were correct.
Yeah,
To say
that
he
How's
is
the Rolls
already-
Royce sounding right now?
Oh, the Rolls Royce. I don't even think it makes noise right now.
It's going that. What's that? The battery sound. What's that?
Yeah, there you go.
Someone taking the wheels off on the side of the road? Oh goodness, let's talk
Stripped down for parts.
about Martellus Bennett. 3-year, $21 million deal with the Packers.
Hey, you got a good, fantasy productive tight end going to play with Aaron Rodgers, and therefore you have a guy that's going to be overdrafted, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because
Oh
Wow.
man, I wasn't sure where you were
I
going.
went back and looked at the entire career of Aaron Rodgers. Every single season that he's been there, who has been his tight end 1, and where have they finished for fantasy football? Keep
Break
in mind,
it down, brother.
He's had Jermichael Finley before. 5 of Aaron Rodgers' seasons, Jermichael Finley was the number 1 tight end for the team for fantasy purposes.
5?
Yeah, I know. I was shocked at that
Wow.
too. The reason why we're shocked is because
Every year he was hyped. I remember the Jermichael Finley
over
hype.
and over.
This is the year.
Here's Jermichael Finley's finishes, okay?
He was Eric Ebron before it was cool.
He finished 37th.
That's a good one.
37th, which was their number 1 tight end that
That's
year.
really
really good.
Solid.
Wait, so
Nin-
the fantasy tight
Yes,
end 37?
fantasy tight end 37. 19, which is also terrible.
Terrible. That's
In two-
Fedorowicz levels.
In
Continue.
2011, he was the number 5 tight end, and that's where all the hype came from. So he had a number 5 tight end once in 2011. The year before that, 37, 13, 21, and coming forward with the tight end 26, tight end 36 last year, and Richard Rodgers was tight end 9. So in his entire career,
Off of one play.
Yeah, exactly. Twice has he had even a tight end 1. And usually, I mean, it's just not Aaron Rodgers' game plan. It's not the Packers' game plan. And that's not to say that Martellus Bennett can't be a tight end 1. He's great. He's a good player.
He'll have tight end 1 weeks.
Yeah.
But we already have the example. He already played for Tom Brady
Right.
without Gronkowski, and he wasn't consistent enough as a pass catcher. Now, what can he do for Green Bay? He makes them a better team. I think he's a better tight end than Jared Cook. So they also added Lance Kendricks. They could play 2 tight end sets now. So it'll be interesting. By the way, with the Lance Kendrick signing, pay attention to Tyler Higbee in St. Louis.
I think all three of us love Higbee.
Yeah, we do. So, but last year for Green Bay, 103 targets went to the tight end position. That's that has Green Bay at 23rd for percentage of targets to the tight end. 16.6% of targets went to the tight end. And if you're wondering, like, what's a strong team? Well, let's see. Tennessee was 10th, and they were at just under 25%. So you're talking a major discrepancy of Aaron Rodgers just doesn't consistently throw the ball to the tight end.
I want to get into the mailbag and answer some listener questions. It's important that we do that on today's show. I'm going to go through some quick-hitting kind of other free agent news that's maybe not as prolific. Cardinals re-signed Andre Ellington to a 1-year deal. The Buccaneers are giving Jacquizz Rodgers a 2-year deal.
Well, they got their starting running back.
Yes, you said that before. That's true. Beware of Tampa in the draft for running back.
Sure.
Robert Turbin's back in Indianapolis. Also, he was the ultimate vulture on the goal line of Frank Gore. 2-year deal for $4.1 million. That's not chump change, so he'll be utilized. Right now, that's another team that I'm looking at to strengthen their running back core in the draft. Terrence Williams re-signed. 4-year deal, $17 million?
Yeah. It was.
I didn't digest this earlier. So
it was interesting. I think that I feel like he took less money than he could have gotten to stay in Dallas.
I agree. It's not good for his fantasy value.
He's a fantasy vegetable at the wide receiver position too.
No, he's fantasy mold.
I wouldn't go that. He's fantasy celery. It's a vegetable, I think, but it doesn't give you much nutritional value.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, put the ants on the log.
Yeah.
Well, then it becomes delicious.
Well, he does every once in a while. He gets a touchdown.
If you want to play with fire, Saints have agreed to terms with Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn said he believes Drew Brees can help extend his career.
I'll bet he's right.
He is correct.
Run fast, Ted.
He's been playing with Cam Newton.
Yeah, I would say he's going from a sub 60% completion passer to Drew Brees, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the history of the league.
Kendall Wright, 1-year, $4 million contract with the Bears, who, by the way, paid Marcus Wheaton more money than Brandon Marshall.
No one wants to go to Chicago. Nobody.
If you had to rank the wide receivers in Chicago, starting today, this is what they go into the season with: Kevin White, Cam Meredith, Kendall Wright.
Hey, with Cam and Kevin White, you could be okay. We still have no clue what Kevin White can be.
I'm going to say this right now. I'm sorry if you're a Bears fan. I think you're the second or worst team in the league.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be a rough year. Raiders have signed Cordarrelle Paterson. I love Cordarrelle Paterson for what he brings to a team.
To special teams.
Gadgetry and special teams. I mean, that's all it is. But he's a great piece to add to Crabtree and Cooper and that offense. I mean, I like it.
Has Seth Roberts re-signed?
I believe he's good to go.
Oh, really?
So
that's probably one of the most hidden free agents that I wanted out of there so bad. 20 red zone targets.
Andy, you did gloss over the Mike Wallace will be back with the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, and we'll get into that, I think, extensively on our free agent winners and losers. But he is back with the Ravens.
He's a winner.
And he's a winner. Jason, this next news is really –
This is the greatest free agent signing of the offseason. The Arizona Cardinals have signed former 49ers kicker Phil Dawson, who is a great kicker, and they have gotten rid
He was
of
born
Chandler
in 1949,
Catenzero, who is the worst.
He was actually in the gold rush.
And
yes.
in proof that
In
the
the
Jets are
1800s.
trying to lose, the Jets have signed Chandler Catenzero.
Are you still ranking him 32nd every week?
I think I'll let him be where he actually deserves, which will be more like 28.
Okay.
So he's not an auto
Upgrade.
32nd.
Yeah, Jets. He's going to cost you a game
Or three.
two or three.
It's time to dive into the listener mailbag.
Mailbag.
All right, if you have a question you want to submit to the show, you can go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, click the questions button. You can also dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. Leave us a voicemail question. We try to get into as many of these as we can. Obviously, we get a lot of questions submitted through, but We try to answer them, help your team out, help you get that Foot Clan title. The first question
I love the first
is
question.
so perfect. And we had no clue this news was going to break today. But Ryan Porter in Texas says, where should I take CJ Prosise in my Dynasty League and my half-point per reception league? I'm interested to hear your answer, Mike, because I want to know if it's different for both of those situations, in a regular half-point league or a Dynasty League.
Oh, man. In a Dynasty League, for context, in startup last year, when rookies were included in the startup draft, I believe I took Prosise in the 7th or 8th round. I would probably look at him in the 5th or 6th round now. I would. He's young. He's great.
You can have him.
He's young. He's massively talented. I have stood by the fact that Thomas Rawls is not very good for years. And now Seattle tends to all their moves at least say that they agree with me, and I think that Prosise is very, very good and will be very good for years to come.
I agree that Prosise is good, but I think most, when you look at most rankings, Prosise would be in a dynasty setup like in the 80s as far as total player. I think this move with Eddie Lacy coming hurts Prosise because his upside to actually say, I'm taking over the role, right? Like, that's the hope. When you draft Prosise in the 5th, you're not hoping that he is the third down back. You're hoping that his third down back excels and he takes over. He's not taking over the role.
Despite all of Mike's opinions on CJ Prosise, the world agrees that he's not a 3-down back.
We don't know that yet.
I agree with Andy, and I am the world.
No, we don't know that yet. And it seems strange for someone who has hated Eddie Lacy for years that you feel like him coming in and he's just going to take the job.
$5 million puts him as top 10 paid in the running back market.
Yeah.
You're a top 10 paid running back. I think he's going to come in and take the job.
Well, to be fair,
I think he
the
has the job.
Well, the salary cap goes up every single year, so of course a new contract will put you in near the top. I mean, you're talking Tavon Austin is one of the highest paid wide receivers. Whenever you get a new contract, you're immediately one of the highest paid.
CJ Prosise is, he's 2 in the bush to me, not 1 in the hand. Lacy's 1 in the hand right now. Chris Miller in Whitehall, Pennsylvania. Hey guys, new Foot Clan member here. Question.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the Foot Clan. I'm in a PPR league, and I have the option to keep one of these players: Michael Thomas, Lamar Miller, Adrian Peterson, Eddie Lacy, and Latavius Murray. Our keeper is in the 3rd round. So what do you think here? What would you do there in a keeper league, PPR keeper league?
It's between Lamar Miller and Michael Thomas for me, and because it's PPR, I will go Michael Thomas.
That is my pick as well.
I just want to throw this out there. Lamar Miller, I tweeted this yesterday.
And yeah, I like it.
I believe Lamar Miller is a great pickup right now in dynasty settings. I know people feel like he burned you last year because he didn't come in and capitalize on the hope, but he still wasn't bad. He was an RB2 and he didn't even play the last 2 weeks. He had enough production where he didn't completely crap your team, but he had Brock Osweiler.
I was going to say that Brock Osweiler had the diaper on and the poop particles leaked over onto Miller.
Yeah, I mean,
Miller smelled bad because of Brock.
You're stacking the box against Lamar Miller because you know Brock's not going to beat you. But if Tony Romo goes there, which I think right now is the expectation, Lamar Miller's going to be productive. The offense is going to be fine. They've got DeAndre Hopkins on the outside, and you've got a guy who's going to be getting the ball, and he's going to be out there 3 downs. And I think once again, Lamar Miller is one of my guys that I believe in.
With Billy O'Brien saying we gave him too many carries, especially early.
No, not really. Because
he did break down late.
If you look at what he said in that, he wasn't saying we gave him too many carries and we need to half them. He was talking about how he's still going to get a lot of carries. Literally, this is what he said. He's still going to get a lot of volume, but they'll probably try to keep him away from the 30 touch mark, which is probably good.
Right.
All right, dynasty trade question from Ross in Eureka, California.
Eureka!
I have the 101 pick in the upcoming dynasty draft.
I know you do, Andy.
That's true. I do as well. Looking to trade the pick along with either Matt Stafford or Kirk Cousins for Jordan Howard? Good deal?
No.
Yeah, probably not.
No, I like Jordan Howard, but hold on to that pick. We don't know.
If a Fournette goes to the right spot, if Fournette goes to Tampa Bay
Or
to
Dalvin Cook.
Washington, then I would rather, if there was a dynasty startup, I would probably take one of those guys ahead of Jordan Howard because, the Bears situation. I mean, we got to wait till the NFL draft
Right.
plays out. But, I mean, to package.
But I would certainly not.
Yeah, I would not.
All right, let's get into one more here. Let's do a PPR keeper question from Sam in Canada.
Oh, bonjour.
PPR keep 5, no penalties. Wow. Gurley, Ware, OBJ, Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, Martavis Bryant, Kevin White, Martellus Bennett. It's the first 5.
The first 5.
First 5.
Gurley, Ware, OBJ, Keenan Allen, and Michael Thomas.
Let's do one more. That
All
one
right.
was too easy.
Michael Thomas draft position question. Where do you draft him now with Brandin Cooks being traded? This is
TJ
from Dugan in Pearland, Texas.
TJ Hernandez has been tweeting out some pretty fiery stats considering Michael Thomas' current draft spot of he is about the 10th wide receiver off the board, and just historically speaking, there's almost no way that he's going to really return value at the 10. So I'm with TJ. I'm avoiding him that early. The problem it's because of market share of target percentage, and so third round would be great, but he's going to go in the second round. So if you are taking Michael Thomas in the second round, you are creating this bed of expectations that he's probably not going to live up to.
What about a dynasty league?
We're in a startup.
Yeah.
He probably is.
I think he's going to be overdrafted in all formats, personally.
Right.
And I've said this for a while.
You don't think he's good for 100 receptions next year?
I think he's going to be great. I think he will be solid. He could absolutely be a 1. In a dynasty leagues, if you think that Drew Brees has, at least a couple years left, then Michael Thomas is a very high draft pick.
I don't necessarily think he's good for 100. I know he had 92 receptions last year as a rookie, and that was with Brandin Cooks there. But he also caught 76% of the balls thrown his way. That's not happening for his career.
Right.
Otherwise, he's first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, that's just one of those things where now with Brandin Cooks leaving, what does that mean for defenses lining up across the field? Michael Thomas, you have a year of tape on Michael Thomas that you didn't have last year, obviously, and now Brandin Cooks is not, I know they've got Ted Ginn, but no offense to Ted Ginn, you're not Brandin Cooks.
Let's say, you know what you do? You pass on Thomas, you wait quite a few rounds, and then you grab my man Willie Snead.
Oh, yeah. Willie Snead is looking really good. And it's not to bash on Michael Thomas or say he's not going to be good, but I do agree that where Michael Thomas is going right now, I would be hard-pressed to think he's going to return value.
I kind of buy in. I don't know. I buy into the volume there. I mean, the second half of the season, he was on pace for about 110 receptions, 11 touchdowns. Obviously turned it on in the second half of the season. I guess I buy in that there will be enough volume for him.
So I'm looking at ADP from Fantasy Football Calculator, and I don't think it's had enough time to reboot after the Brandin Cooks trade. So Michael Thomas was already going at the back right at the middle.
Talk about some guys
of the
around
second
him.
round. Exactly. So here's the two guys right in front of him, T.Y. Hilton, Des Bryant. After Michael Thomas, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen.
I would take Michael Thomas over all those guys easily.
Sure. But
I think that's the perfect spot because I would not take him
over
Des Bryant.
Those are the wide receivers.
Yeah, no, I would not take him over Des Bryant, and I would take him over the 4 guys you said. T.Y. Hilton, I might take him ahead of.
I would.
Because I'm looking
Interesting.
because
definitely
T.Y. Hilton
take
just
T.Y.
doesn't score the way Michael Thomas could
Right.
score. So, you said you definitely take T.Y. Hilton. Welcome to fantasy football.
There you go.
That is it for today's show. I want to invite you to check out jointhefoot.com, our fantasy football community. You can join leagues with listeners of the show, dedicated, great commissioners,
The Foot Clan.
great listeners. And, look, we have an awesome community. I don't know how we ended up 3 knuckleheads like us getting such a great –
2 knuckleheads and 1 outstanding gentleman.
Thank
Me.
you, Mike.
Oh, I
Me.
thought you were saying 2 verified and then 1 unverified.
Man of the people.
Man of the people by choice or
Yes,
against
by-
your will.
By choice. No. Yes, by choice.
Check out fantasyjocks.com if you need a trophy, a belt, a ring, whatever you need to celebrate your championship. We'll catch you on Thursday. Take care.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.